So I'm going to stand here. It'll be easier for me to look and then speak. Yeah. So like Alex, I also did the same study in the Indian sample, but I got quite a lot of responses, almost 150 odd. So, and the entire sample had both Christians and Hindus, about 50 numbers from each group, and quite a lot of women and men. So we thought of it would be interesting to look at gender and religion in the Indian sample. So again, a mixed method study, gender religious differences being checked. We also wanted to see whether the drawings and narratives would match up with the questionnaires that was administered. So we had given a trauma events checklist, which had almost 10 events listed out, and the participants could mark, like for example, sexual abuse, car accident, terror attack or war. So almost 10 that they could mark, more than one. And there was an injustice experiences questionnaire which assessed the amount of pain associated with the unjust event. So again, I'm just going to skim through this because already you've been given an introduction. Revenge as a psychological phenomenon in response to perceived maltreatment or injustice. There are negative emotions that surface up against oneself also and against the perpetrator. Sometimes it's shame, guilt. But when you're talking about revenge fantasies, you're talking about cognitions, you're talking about thoughts that are, like Raquel was mentioning, imagining a scenario where you're getting back at the perpetrator. It's basically the urge to fight back or to get back, the urge. So, and it can be intrusive, it can pop up without you having control over your thoughts. Acts as a coping mechanism, and you establish a sense of control, justice. It's universal, and studies show that it emerges as young as 9 years. Raquel mentioned 3 years. Yes, the idea of getting back or enacting revenge is, as you know, it's something that happens from childhood. But the aspect of revenge fantasies or thinking, ruminating about revenge. The study showed that from at least 8 or 9, like, becomes very concrete in thinking about getting back. So talking about the Indian context, cultural norms often dictate emotional expression. India being a collectivistic culture, society, patriarchal also, and religion is big. You'll see, okay, let me move back. You'll see that, the map of India, the part where I've marked black is the state that I'm coming from, all the way down south. And Shrimo is from somewhere over here. So you see almost 28 states, each state having its own language, culture, festivals, and, it's almost like, you're part of the same country, but you also have many countries in the land, in the topography. So Hinduism is dominant. 80% of the population follow Hinduism, followed by Islam, and then followed by Christianity and Jains and different other minority religious communities. So, Alex touched upon gender role socialization, which is also common in India, where, women are expected to suppress anger and hostility, whereas men are allowed to, or in fact encouraged to show their masculine, aggressive drive. They are allowed to, show anger, and studies have shown, Indian studies particularly, when I did my search, couldn't find anything on revenge fantasies in India or with Indian samples, but aggression, they did a lot of work among adolescents, young adults, and they found that males exhibited higher physical aggression, whereas when it came to females, they had more of relational hostility, again, affect, but not translating into direct action. Like, though the feeling of injustice, anger is there, the enactment happens more in the case of males. And clearly using drawings is also very novel, because in India most of the research is done through questionnaires. So to see and assess using both drawings and narratives could be both therapeutic and also we'll find interesting results apart from the questionnaires. Because when you're using questionnaires, there's also the tendency to answer in a social desirable manner, right? So what we focused on were 3 main questions about gender differences, religious differences. We used only Christians and Hindus. I collected almost 15 from Muslims as well, but they ended up skewing the results. So we just stuck to these 2 groups because I had sufficient sample size. And we checked the association between the qualitative and quantitative measures. So this is the sample distribution. We had more of females, more of Hindus than Christians. Majority were single. We collected even the educational level. Most of them at least had at least a bachelor's degree. And in the events list, if you can see the graph, the most common or frequent event reported was emotional abuse, followed by hospitalization due to some illness, and loss of family member. So for the drawings and the narratives, we had separate indicators to assess. One was the type of the unjust event that was depicted. Did it stem from within the family or outside? In fact, we also found some unspecified events. That is, even in the drawing or the narrative, they have not really mentioned whether it happened inside or outside the family. The revenge fantasy type, we had quite more types because of the huge sample size, almost 150, right? So some have used by proxy, that involves through God, through karma, through another person. Then passive aggression, followed by direct action, forgiveness, and avoidance. As you can see, the perpetrator type also we had several. Even also the aspect of whether the perpetrator was specified or not. There were certain cases where they listed more than one perpetrator also. And also the hierarchy of the perpetrator, whether they were on the same level, higher, lower. Narratives also, we had checked for the type of revenge fantasy, the way the narrative was organized. So if you can actually look back on your own narratives also, whether they are coherent short or incoherent, or whether they are quite long, very extensive. Narrative dissociation, whether there was dissociation in the wordings. Central theme in the narrative, we found all of these almost 6 themes emerging specifically to the narratives also, because there were huge differences in the drawing and the narratives, in the way people express themselves. And finally, a resolution in the narrative, whether it was positive, negative, or neutral. Now, this is an example of a 29-aged Hindu male. These are both of his drawings. The first one is his unjust event, and the second one is his revenge fantasy. So he checked verbal or emotional abuse as the event that was marked, and we found that in the entire sample, even in the two drawings, there were significant differences. Like, for example, whether the self was depicted in the first drawing as opposed to the second. The drawing style, you can see it's stick figure kind, whereas when it came to the revenge fantasy, there are no figures. Then whether the size of the perpetrator, the victim, there were significant differences even in the type of the two drawings. Going forward, we found, interestingly, there were no gender differences in the revenge fantasies. Very interesting. But when it came to indicators such as perpetrator type, the theme in the narrative, we found that, I don't know if you can see clearly, females had more of strangers listed as perpetrators, followed by family. So kind of shows that in India, women are victimized both inside the family and outside. When it came to narratives, we found mostly women citing trauma and victimization again consistent. This is an example of a female 21-aged. I've just brought in their revenge fantasy drawing. This is what she has depicted as the perpetrator was a peer, and how she would like to get back at the peer is the perpetrator has to get help. So it's an example of avoidance as a revenge fantasy, whereas the other male, again, something to do with peers, again, the injustice. He used passive aggression because he, in his narrative, he said he doesn't want to get back, it doesn't matter whatever she did to me, but still, to get a closure would be nice, not that I expect from her. So you see there's undertones of passive aggression in his narrative. And even if you look at the drawing, you see more or less the type, the drawing style is similar, but the way it's in terms of, you do sense, I don't know what feeling you're getting off of the second drawing, any associations? Do you have any feelings? This drawing, I mean. Mm-hmm. Right. But there's also that ambivalence of where he's tearing up and he's thinking. So going forward, looking at religious affiliation, Christians versus Hindus, we found that specifically in the drawings alone, in the narratives, we'll look at it in the next slide, we found that Hindus opted for more of avoidance, followed by proxy, whereas Christians also, you see, avoidance is kind of the common theme in the Indian sample, but Christians do end up forgiving more, maybe because of the religious teachings associated with, because in Hinduism the texts, the sacred texts that they use, have stories where, there's elements like non-violence, justice, and, adhering to duty, but you get what you want irrespective of the means. Like, so if even, causing war or causing trouble helps you get to the means or the end, it's valid, sort of. Whereas in the Christian teaching, it's more of forgiveness, it's more of releasing bitterness and resentment. So again, very interesting finding. In the narratives, you see Hindus depicted, you will see that they had very short narratives. Mostly, if you can see the yellow are Hindus, coherent short narratives. Again, previously, like how we had seen, trauma and victimization seems to be on the forefront. And they had more of neutral sort of resolution, whereas when it came to Christians had more elaborate narratives. Their common theme was body, gender-related issues. And their resolution was more or less positive, more or less leaning towards forgiveness. Again, two examples, female Christian versus Hindu male. The first one, so her event was when she was very young, when she was in like kindergarten or something. Her teacher slapped her, and she was not, so why was she slapped? She, along with her friend, was laughing in the classroom at some joke that they had cracked. But the teacher picked on her specifically and did not slap the other child who actually cracked the joke. So she was mistreated. And her revenge fantasy is that the teacher would just get a revelation of how teacher's behavior affects the child. And so the teacher, behaving in a good manner, behaving better. So again, it's avoidance as the revenge fantasy. She doesn't want to do anything to the teacher, just wishing that the teacher has a good future. Whereas here you can see it's stick figures. This is the perpetrator, this is the victim. But you see at the end, the victim having the, the tool, weapon, whatever, and the perpetrator falling down. So it's direct action, clearly depicted. And when we looked at the IEQ is the questionnaire, and when we compared both, we did find again associations in aspects such as whether this perpetrator was specified, not, multiple or not. We also found that Hindus reported more in the questionnaire as opposed to Christians. Again, it could be the fact that Christians are primed in their teaching to stay away. You're not supposed to enact, or you're not supposed to feel anger, bitter, you're supposed to release it. Whereas, again, could be that influence. we found particularly for the type of event when the injustice stemmed within the family, they had reported higher scores on the questionnaire, which is also consistent, right? Like the hurt that stems from within the family is the most closest to you. So it's natural that the entire sample would have higher scores. So again, just to conclude, there are a lot of limitations and possible biases in the way it was rated, etc. But still, employing or bringing in religion and gender, especially in the therapy space, and bringing this aspect, and again a non-Western context, helps you understand how people from different cultures, different religious backgrounds cope with injustice and trauma. And so that's the Indian sample, but we did a very interesting comparison of Thais versus Indians to see, okay, what are we going to find out? And we had an equally matched sample size. I included only Hindus in the comparison because Hinduism is the dominant religion. So again, same number of males, females, again more or less similar on their demographics as well. But you see in the events, verbal and emotional abuse more or less same, but Thais reported.
Yes, for Thai participants, they reported almost all of them. And in other studies as well, that they reported emotional abuse as the highest event. And most of the Thai also in this group, they are bachelor degrees and single. For the Thai study, I didn't compare between the different religion because most of them are Buddhist, and there are no differences in their reaction towards the unjust story.
So actually, just to add on, you find North India to have Hinduism as a heavily dominant force, whereas that's why one of the reasons why I emphasize the state that I come from. It's more of there's a significant group of Christians, Christian community, even Jewish community, especially the state that I come from. So that's how to understand the extremes or in terms of distribution. So just wanted to point that out. The findings of comparison, we found that Indians reported more events than Thais, but again, at least minimum of 2 events that both groups had reported. And you see, again, an interesting finding that Indians, they had lesser score in the questionnaire in comparison with Thais. So it feels, yeah.
We went all out on the questionnaire. So the intensity of the feeling of being unjust, I feel like is we have a lot of that, but because of the Buddhist teaching and the way the society look upon like how do you behave in social situations. So even if they would like to take a revenge, they cannot. So it's not just their mind of thinking like I want to leave it alone, but then the bigger umbrella will be like I cannot because of the way society, and because we have we concern about saving face as well. So to disrupt the harmony, to disrupt the peace, environment is also feel like a taboo as well, that you shouldn't done that. So I would say it might represent shouldn't, couldn't, cannot.
So they can't respond. At least they can respond and take it out in the questionnaire. But Indians seem to shy away from, despite anonymity being assured, and despite, it's just, because it's a research study also, even despite all of those assurances, they seem to, again, pull back from giving enough recognition to the injustice or the pain. So again, an interesting cultural difference. We found that for the perpetrator type, there were significant differences. We found even in the type of revenge fantasy adopted, and for particularly sexual abuse as a trauma event, loss of family member, and other event. They had not specified Indians, I mean, in that checklist, it was just written other, so we don't know what kind of event that is. But particularly in these three, there were differences with greater number of sexual abuse in the Indian sample, loss of family member also being greater in the Indian sample, and some other event, we don't know what it is. So that's also interesting. So looking at the drawings, where we found
with the Thai participant here, those that talk about their colleagues or friends or people that they know, in a way is the way that they try to prevent from talking about the revenge, about the like disrupting of harmony, but then with the revenge fantasy. So they want something to happen to those people because they cannot do it themselves. And that, I mean, sexual abuse, but the other events, so mostly Thai participants, they just tick one and one only in their questionnaire, so it's emotional abuse.
and you can see Thais, like Alex mentioned, the perpetrator type, mostly it was people they knew, even Indians, but also strangers following. So again, victimization trauma is quite prevalent. And also in the type of revenge fantasy, you see Indians using avoidance, but you see Thais opted for proxy.
We love passive aggressiveness. So, no, but with male and female, there are no differences in Thai participants, and both of them often like prefer the indirect punishment as well.
So, just a comparison of the two drawings. This is an example for a perpetrator type, that is people that they know. This is the Indian drawing and the Thai drawing, which Alex already mentioned. So here the injustice was the girl, she is right now probably nearing her 40s. So she said when she was in school, she had an elder sister, and she was often compared to her elder sister by her teachers, which is also very common in the Indian educational system. So her revenge fantasy is that the teacher would understand how much that affected her, and the teacher would repent and somehow, say, sorry, I misjudged you, I shouldn't have compared your marks, your performance based on your elder sister.
Yeah, and for the revenge drawing, the second drawing, for Thai participants, they don't put themselves into the drawing at all. Or sometimes if they have themselves there, there will be no faces, or it will be something abstract or cartoonish style. So they try to like stay away from taking revenge. Like, I just want that to happen, that's all.
Also, you notice that there's words added in the drawing. And stick figures.
Yeah, but we just keep it abstract for the revenge, for your imagination. Yeah.
Okay, so the next comparison, revenge fantasy by proxy. So this is the Thai style, the Indian style. So actually this event, a male recounted an event on the road where there are a lot of motorcycles, two-wheelers on the road on the Indian roads. Better than Thailand though. Driving is much better in comparison to, but that's not the point here. But the event was, how the two-wheelers cause a lot of trouble to the ones in the four-wheeler. So his revenge fantasy is by proxy, that the police officer would intervene and would reprimand and scold the two-wheeler guys who are causing trouble.
Yeah. For again, if you see in the Thai drawing, there's no the door in there at all. So this is just a perpetrator,
the perpetrator
and someone else. So it's not them.
Again, lastly, karma. So this is the Indian style of depicting, like just and that's it. And in the narrative she had written, like, you know, what you sow is what you reap, so the perpetrator will get what he or she has reaped or sown.
But for Thai, I think the intensity, like the suffering, and not just like death. Like you need to suffer, you need to be like in the lowest. Again, like comparison, like I'm higher. Yeah.
Yes, and finally we are finishing. We did find that the questionnaires and the drawings and narratives had associations, and yeah, there were, that is equally, you can use drawings and narratives as equivalent with questionnaires that assess the same thing. We found significant associations, particularly in the perpetrator type and in the type of revenge fantasy that was opted. So thank you.
Now, if everybody have a question
Questions
for
to
Meghna, yeah.
Just for me, huh? Yeah.
I'm next, right?
Yes. So no questions.
Meghna, not a question, just
Yes.
You are welcome.
only for Meghna.
Only
Don't worry,
for me.
Alex.
Yes.
Just a comment. With the kind of dominant politicization or the political climate right now in India, I'm very glad that you brought in the region and the significance of the region, because southern India,
Yeah.
and especially from a state like Kerala,
Yeah.
is the most literate, one of the most literate states. The other one is obviously the one that I come from. But no, so the alpha male, that is the dominant patriarchal.
Yeah.
So it will be really interesting to have a North Indian study group, and especially because you mentioned that direct action.
Yeah.
So this, an interesting way of looking at it, it is also, if you've noticed, that how Hanuman, Rama, Krishna, Shiva are being recently portrayed through drawings.
Yeah.
Do you see the musculature?
Yeah.
I do not remember Shiva being portrayed in that way ever. So Shiva was a rotund fellow who was happy with his marijuana, right?
Yeah.
So now he's very lean and he has a six-pack. So everything is depicted
Yeah.
in a very muscular and a very dominant, powerful, masculine way. So I think that could be another layer that, I mean, it can be explored,
Yeah.
especially in the political,
In the
you know,
setting.
environment that is prevalent now. Because
yeah.
Kerala is so much more liberal and so much more, you know, so direct action would probably be the least that is coming in from Kerala.
Yes.
Whereas if we
Yeah.
could look at a section of the North Indian population.
So actually when I recruited my participants, I gave it as an advertisement sort of online.
Okay.
And so there were quite a lot from North India, but I'll tell you another side.
Yes.
Those men who end up participating in research or who have the time to attempt the drawing and the narratives are either doing PhD or they are involved in research. So this is like a new way to, you know, for findings. So to find male participants in India who will really attempt the task is also a challenge. But
Right.
it is definitely
So, and your group was adults?
adults, yeah, above 18, yeah.
Above 18, and was there
A
upper
cut.
limit to?
Till 50, I think 55 was the, but we
55.
didn't have men from above 50. It was
Okay.
I don't think we even crossed 40. It was
Okay.
all,
Okay, so the young adult.
yeah, young
mostly.
adults.
Okay, thank you.
but it's a good possibility to explore.